Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, it's funny. I got up here and you were quoting me all these stats about Julian Sayin, and it's this incredible performance. No one's done this to Penn State since Justin Fields. And it was like, I remember like 3 incompletions. Like, that wasn't a very good game for him at all. And you look at the final score and it's like, yeah, it's about what I thought they do. But yeah, they did give up another. And then you look at the yards per play and they outgained Penn State by 5.4 yards per play. Like, they completely dominated that game. And it just just because I think, honestly, it was the last minute of the first half, last 2 minutes of the first half was just kind of a little bit of a drag on the entire day. And it was, you go into halftime at 17-14 and there's some people booing, and it was like, yeah, I mean, I get it. But then the second half, like, holy smokes, when that went poorly for Penn State, that went like, I mean, this is kind of the season as a microcosm, but like, it was fine for a while, but once it went badly, it went real bad, real fast.
And we'll cover all of that. I guess we can tackle the super chat here from Mike Ferguson. To quote the late, great William McKinley, never bet on the shutout. Cough, cough, Tony. Did he say that? Was that a presidential thing? Is that something that's on his memoirs? Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Kevin.
After he retired from the presidency, famously in Buffalo. Yes.
So, yes, never bet on the shutout. And the problem with that, Penn State had one good drive all game, but then they had a
pretty good one that ended with a punt to start the game. Yes. But then they had another good one.
And then they got the gift that I will probably get to at some point today talking about that. But I do want to talk about Julian Sayin, because we are being spoiled by him right now, where, again, you shouldn't come out of any game necessarily, let alone every game, and know all of the incompletions. And looking at him, so he was 20 of 23 today for 316 yards, 4 touchdowns. He now has 15 touchdowns and 27 incompletions in Big Ten play this year. So he's not very good. And it's like, well, you look at the numbers, and
that wasn't exactly what I said.
Yeah, roll the tape back. But those 3 incompletions today, like, he threw one away out of bounds, right? Threw another one away on to James Peoples, like in the near the in the end zone, where Carson Hinsman got beat right up the middle, so he had to just throw it away. And then the other one was like a drop by Brandon Innes. So your incompletions, Tom, 2 throwaways and a drop. Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's time to move the level up. You got to stop playing on junior varsity. I think you're ready for All-American at this point.
Well, and it wasn't even sure, but they were dinking and dunking today. No. This was the bold prediction show was the almost prediction show for me, where I had a 3-pointer where they're going to complete 3 passes of 50 yards or more, and they completed 2 passes of 50 yards or more and 1 pass of 45 yards. The only reason it went for 45 yards was because there were only 45 yards available to them at that moment. So call that play 5 yards earlier, you cowards. But it was, this was, he had some safe throws. Yeah, he threw some running backs, but he also, they went downfield when they wanted to go downfield. They did just kind of whatever they wanted to do. They ran the ball fine, but Julian Sayin was able to do essentially whatever he wanted to do. And we'll get to a little bit from Terry Smith later, Penn State's interim head coach. We'll get to hear from him a little bit later on, because he was asked, like, Ohio State able to do that? And the TLDR on it was like, yeah, man, have you seen their wide receivers? Like, what do you want me to do? Like, can we talk for a moment? Completing 87% of your passes, it's impressive. But when you have Jeremiah Smith doing whatever the heck that was on that, like, I'm pretty nonplussed on the field at this point. I'm working. I laughed out loud at that last touchdown. It was like, I'm glad this isn't video, because you would have me like snort laughing on this video if it was a video instead of still photos.
That's how the press box was as well.
Yeah, like,
when it happens, like, what do you?
Jim Knowles had to be going like, yeah, man, what do you want me to do?
And then you weren't here, but most people probably saw it. Jeremiah Smith, his response to that in here was that he was just trying to make sure that Julian Sayin didn't throw an interception there, because you can't grade out a champion if you throw an interception. So he was trying to help a teammate out.
Julian, always, that's good looking out right there. Yeah,
But it was his first one-handed catch of the year, I believe.
Mhm.
Just again, another unique performance from Jeremiah Smith. He had 6 for 123 in 2 touchdowns. Carnell Tate 5 for 124. Their 11 targets led to 11 receptions for 247 yards and 3 touchdowns. So when you can just 11 targets for 240, you're 20 some yards a target. Hey boy, you got to ask yourself, why can't you make the entire plane out of those 2?
Well, I mean, it kind of felt like they were trying at times, and this is one of the things where they're talking about trying to get a Heisman campaign together, and everyone wants to complain that Ohio State's not doing enough to promote. Like the next 3 weeks, Ohio State has a tremendous opportunity to promote it because they can do whatever they want the next 3 weeks. You want Julian Sayin to throw 7 touchdowns? You can make that happen if you want to make that happen.
Yep.
Like you can break every school record you want to in every different direction you want to if you want, if they really want to. And then if the opponents, whichever of the next 3, take the opportunity to say, hey, what if we just what if we have 2 guys rush the passer and drop, I don't know, what's 9? Is that like a $5 bill coverage? Like you have 9 defensive backs on the field. You can do whatever you want to do the next couple of weeks because congratulations, Ohio State. Unless your team bus fails to arrive at the stadium, you're going undefeated into Michigan.
Yeah, and Penn State helped them out with the coverages that led to a lot of the deep passes. Super chat from Devin Paul. Tony, did Tom ever find the honey hole you were talking about on bold predictions? And Tom, I know you said that I'm never allowed to again say honey hole. Got a message from our buddy Lowell who said, instead of, since I'm not allowed to say honey hole anymore, he said,
you're really not doing a very good job of it.
Honey hole. He was saying that he suggested agave abscess.
Nope, that's worse.
Okay,
that's worse.
Sorry, Lowell. I tried. He did ask me to make sure I worked it into the show.
Well,
boom, done.
Hang the banner.
So thank you all for tuning in.
But you can keep coming up with synonyms for 30 more seconds, and I will.
We can.
I will put up my Jeremiah Smith one-handed catch picture because I had to find that on a hard drive.
And this super chat from Mike Ferguson will take us right into what I wanted to talk about. Now that Jim Knowles no longer works for Ohio State, I no longer miss the busted plays for 25 plus yards. Ryan Day and Julian Sayin and even Jeremiah Smith said, the coverages had a lot to do with they were playing a lot of quarters, so they were able to attack that with the posts and things like that. And Jeremiah Smith even said on his long touchdown that he heard the corner and safety talking about the coverage that they were going to play. And so then he knew at that point, well, the ball's coming to me based on this. So I would say maybe hand signals or something of that nature rather than shouting over from 20 yards to the next guy.
You literally have helmet radios now. Like this feels again, like I said this earlier in some other context. Like I know technology sometimes doesn't get to Central Pennsylvania right away, but it feels like you should be up to speed with that by now.
And I think this shows that when Ohio State is successful throwing deep, because they're not always successful because sometimes the deep shots aren't there. This is a choice by Penn State. This was what they thought would work for them. And boy, there are at least 3 times where the safeties were just flat-footed and Jeremiah's running by them, Carnell Tate's running by them. And you can't just wait for this guy to get to you and then start trying to run with them. It's not going to work for either of those guys. So there was one that I think it was the one to Jeremiah Smith. So it's press coverage. It's down.
Oh yeah, the shot downfield.
Yeah, and so I'm watching Jeremiah, and I see him take off, and then he's already even with the safety, and Jeremiah's open, and then I go back to look at Julian Sayin, and the ball's already gone. I'm like, where's the ball? And then I go back to look, and I'm looking for the ball, and Jeremiah Smith comes down with it. So
there he is.
And Ryan Day said it. So Julian Sayin's his mind works as quickly as his arm does, and. Well, he put on a show today, and you see it there.
For sure. Yeah, that was the long one. I had the one in the end zone up earlier, but yeah, it was just you watch Carnell Tate do this stuff, and it's like, man, I don't know how anyone. Yeah, sure, you can try and take away Jeremiah Smith, but then no one in the country has corners and safeties that can take away both of those guys at the same time, and then they take away Jeremiah Smith, and it's like, all right, well. all right, that's it. We're not letting Cardinal Tate beat us anymore. And then it's like, all right, well, we've got the other guy over there.
Well, and there was even Julian Sayin said on his scramble, both of those guys were doubled. And so then it's now you've got to worry about, Julian Sayin taking off in his legs. But like, sure, if you can go ahead and double the two receivers and something else is going to open up, or there's not going to be a defender there to stop the third down play. But I do agree, try doubling those guys on 3rd and long. And
Right.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, sure. You would try doubling them, but you can't double everyone. I mean, eventually you run out of defenders. So yeah, it was a really man, this is that is an Ohio State complaint right there. User 42, random complaint. I wish the NCAA would do away with the spending cap on what schools can spend on championship rings.
You know what?
That is rich person problems right there.
Make Justin's great again. That's what I say. Next.
Speaking of transitions. So yeah, and the run game. Let's talk a little bit about the run game, because they had the long one from Bo Jackson, and Bo Jackson felt like he hit a bunch, kind of consistently, not incredible. There were several times that I kind of looked over at Penn State and thought, when is the college football trade deadline? Because if you could get Katron Allen, you could put Katron Allen on this team and you trade them a couple future picks, something like that. Like, we'll give you a 4-star wide receiver to be named later. Like, it feels like that's a win-win for both teams.
Well, and it did not start off great for Bo Jackson when he lost 4 yards where there's nothing for him to do, and he just
right.
They were already busting him down. But here's what he ran for. So -4. 9, 8, 5, 3, 2, 1, 2, 51, 5, 9, 11, 3. I'm guessing most of those hit the efficiency number, and were quality runs, and so he was about what this was the best he's been in weeks, and since the last time he went over 100 yards, and it's not just because of the 51-yarder, though that is good to see. Ohio State wore things down, and just looking in the fourth quarter, 56, 65, 70, 79 yards rushing in the fourth quarter from Bo Jackson. So things did wear down for Penn State defensively. And, you like seeing that if you are Ohio State. And they didn't, it's not like, they didn't give up on the run. It's like, well, they weren't going to keep throwing the ball in the fourth quarter.
I did think at one point, it's interesting that they have Julian Sayin in the game for the final drive, where you're putting him at risk. But if he's just going to hand the ball off, why don't you have Lincoln Kienholz in there? Which then I wondered, are we going to see him take a shot downfield here, or throw one more pass to try and get 5 touchdowns, or get over some passing, get him over 350 yards passing or whatever? And they didn't. It struck me as a little bit weird that you're putting your starter at risk in harm's way with no discernible benefit to it other than, you're not preserving Lincoln Kienholz's red shirt. So why not do that and get him off the field? You just saw Caleb Downs almost lose the first half of the next game, at a point where the game was functionally over for a targeting call that got overturned, just to spell that out. But that was a little weird to me. That what are you gaining here that this is worth whatever minute minute risk you're facing?
Yeah, well, and we talked about it in the pregame show where it seems like he'll keep the starters in a little bit longer, but the receivers were the backup receivers were in some of those, even though it was Jeremiah Smith that caught the touchdown pass at the end.
Yeah.
But when they went up 31-14, they immediately came out and ran the ball 4 times and punted. So it's like they're ready to kind of just like, well, I think this is enough. We can salt this thing away. And they did it the next time. And Bo Jackson went for 51 yards. And it's like, well, okay, let's, I guess
all right.
We'll throw it here and see what happens.
Just looking through some of the other stuff, the running back rotation was interesting. I didn't pick up a real discernible pattern to it. I was surprised that Isaiah West had the same number of carries as James Peoples and 3 fewer carries than C.J. Donaldson. especially after CJ Donaldson fumbled. Now I know the fumble was, I saw Terry McCauley, who was one of the NBC, I think, officiating people, and he was on Twitter saying that he thought that should have been blown dead. I did not have a good view of it, but either way, that's a ball security thing. I was a little surprised that CJ Donaldson just went right back in and was given the opportunity to score the next touchdown after that.
Yeah, and they had the half to think about it as well. Like, but yeah, it was a little surprising because we were like talking to each other in the press box, like, so what does this? When's the next time we're going to see CJ Donaldson? And it's like, well, maybe the next drive.
Yeah,
and then he was, and then he exactly got a first down, got a touchdown. To me, it just depends on how things go during the week in practice, and then how things are going during the game. It was good to see James Peoples bust out. He was very excited to get that 11-yarder there and get going. But overall, like, I mean, clearly you can win like this when you have this passing game and you have enough of a running game. Like, it's not like they have no running game, because if you
Penn State ran for 1.8 yards per carry.
That's no running game. And even Katron Allen, 21 of 76. Now, the first carry was 26 yards.
Right, yeah.
And then the next
so that
20
means the
went
next
for 50.
20 went for 50. So
but even, Ohio State rushing for 3 yards a carry and, like, legitimate rushes, it's not great. But when your quarterback can pick up 3rd and 5, not necessarily with his eyes closed, but with one eye closed and, one hand over his eye, the conversion is going to do pretty well, and the offense is going to continue to just churn out third downs. They were 6 of 9 in this game. Now, Penn State being 8 of 15, that's like, that's not good, but not good for Ohio State's defense. But also, Penn State, they did a good job running the ball in the first half with just the power and the toss sweeps. Eventually, that got shut down. So it was interesting to see how that worked. But I am surprised by the 8 for 15, although Ryan Day did say they were not happy about those third downs.
Well, and this is the point of the year where this is so nitpicky, that you just took, again, the team that you probably expected to be one of your 3 hardest games on the schedule and just summarily dispatched them, even with a bunch of some dumb stuff going wrong before halftime. You still just kind of handled the business, and there was not an issue. This is, I know people can look at Penn State and go, well, it's the 5th loss in a row. How good can they be? This is the first time Penn State's gotten smoked in a game. Penn State has been in 60-minute games with everyone, with Oregon, with, 60-minute plus game with Oregon, but 60-minute game with UCLA, Northwestern, with Iowa last week on the road. And I know it's very easy to hand wave, oh, congratulations, you played a 60-minute game with Northwestern. Going on the road and playing Iowa with a first-time starting quarterback, to be in a 60-minute game there, that was all right. Like, that was, maybe they found something here. And then for Ohio State to just kind of farting around the end of the first half the way they did and turning it into a competitive first half game. This reminded me a little bit of a microcosm, a little bit of a mini version of the 2018 Ohio State-Michigan game. Remember that, where Ohio State kind of controlled the first half, and then they had, who was it? Was it Demario McCall? Yeah, Demario McCall kind of botched a kickoff, right? And then Michigan scored 2 touchdowns in the span of like 9 seconds. And it was, Ohio State went from, I don't remember, 20-3 to 20-17 or something in the span of 9 seconds. And it was like, what just happened? How did, what? And that was an Ohio State team that was looking to pull an upset. And then they came out of the halftime and they just went, mashed the gas through the floor, and they won 62-39. 62-39. Yeah. So it reminded me a little bit of that, where it was like Ohio State controlled the whole first half, and you went, even when Penn State scored, I was like, yeah, but I mean, they're not. I can see how difficult this is for Ohio State, and I can see how difficult it is for Penn State, and I know who can do this more often through the course of the game. Yeah. So even when Penn State scored right before the half, that was kind of like, well, that was stupid. But, it didn't. Ryan Day managed that. I thought Ryan Day should have been calling his timeouts to give themselves another crack at the middle 8 there. He didn't do it, but you watch them come down the field after the halftime. It was just kind of like, yeah, okay. I mean, they were never deeply concerned in any way.
No, he said at half it felt like they were down 21 just because that was so disappointing.
Yeah,
but also he told the team, like, as long as we don't turn it over, we're going to win.
Oh yeah,
and you could, like,
yeah,
no, there's no hiding the fact that they were
Mhm.
marching down the field and only stopping themselves.
We have a super chat from FDR. It's great here that we have to get. Does the Big Ten review goal line touchdowns? Penn State's second touchdown. The Big Ten automatically reviews
Mhm.
all scoring plays. I'm 111 yards from in the other direction, so I didn't see that. Was there some controversy over that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's ever a good shot of the ball going over, but I think the problem is that maybe the review is so quick
Mhm.
in Chicago now, where they do it all centrally located on stuff like that,
Mhm.
like the replay assist, where we don't even necessarily know that the stuff is happening.
Mhm.
But they showed some overheads, and it's like I never saw the ball.
Mhm.
But also it's like, well, I mean, how are you going to overturn it? And that's the other thing where,
Right.
well,
Yeah.
how can we overturn this? I don't see how. I don't know where the ball is.
Right. Yeah. And you run into that a lot with those plays in the middle line. Even when you do have a camera shot straight down the goal line, there are a lot of large bodies
Never
crashing
saw the
into each
ball.
other. You never really,
I
you
assumed
never
he
really
just,
know.
yeah, I assumed he just reached the ball over because live it did not look like he made it.
Mhm.
And you've got the top line judge like running in with his arms up saying touchdown, and the other one is like at the half-yard line running up, running up towards the ball. So it's like, well, let's see who wins this fight.
Yeah.
And it's the guy with his arms up because he had the only vantage point that saw the ball apparently.
Yeah. And that was what, first and goal from the one, and they had timeouts left. So they were going to get multiple cracks from the one there. So if they don't get it in there.
When have we seen, Tom,
Yeah.
an Ohio State defense bow up and stop somebody from scoring? I couldn't remember a time.
Not a once. All right. So do we want to talk about the Ohio State defense? Do we want to hear a little bit from Terry Smith about the Ohio State offense? What do we want to do?
Let's, since we're on the offense.
All right. So this is going to be the first Terry Smith soundbite. I think I might have called it something clever like Terry Smith on Ohio State wide receivers. I will find it. Terry Smith on Ohio State wide receivers. So you're going to hear Terry Smith talk about
what?
I forget. He was essentially asked, what did Ohio State do to get the better of you in the passing game? And then the second question is, what happened to the offense in the second half and why they couldn't throw vertically like he wanted them to?
I think it's a combination of all things, lack of pass rush, lack of DBs covering. There's times we're in man, there's times we're in cover three. It was a point of emphasis. It was keys to victory. You cannot let them beyond you. Now, credit to those guys. They are the two best guys in the country. Just watching these guys live, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to the past Ohio State receivers, these two are better than all of them. And those guys are all good. So they put it on film, and they were outstanding today. We could not cover them.
Terry, what happened to the offense in the second half, and why weren't you able to throw the ball vertically as you had said you intended?
Yeah, we continued to struggle in the vertical pass game. There was some opportunities in the second quarter where we had some third and long situations, and we threw the ball in that intermediate range. Ethan threw some nice balls and some nice conversions. We didn't follow it up in the third or fourth quarter. I have to get that fixed. It's something that I have to go in and talk with the staff, and there's no exceptions. I have to get it fixed.
So there you go. So a little taste of Terry Smith. We'll get you a little more later on in the show because I did want to talk about the decision to punt on that first drive. We'll get to that later on, but we'll talk a little more about Ohio State. Their struggles to do anything really against the Ohio State defense. Let's hit the super chat real quick from Rob H. I was pleasantly surprised that they reversed the targeting call and that Caleb made that call matter very soon thereafter. That looked like an incredible interception for him, but the targeting call itself, did you have a good view of that? I was absolutely not in a
Well, yeah, I saw it coming. And you knew that this guy was going to take a big hit, and wasn't shocked when 4 guys threw flags on that one.
Well, I saw a bunch of flags, and I thought, without even seeing it, I thought, I bet this is going to be targeting.
Again, this is where we need our buddy Marcus Hartman out here. He's the arbiter of targeting. He's the only person I know that knows what targeting is. So whenever I'm watching football with him and something happens, I go, is that targeting? And then he tells me.
Targeting?
But, I don't know. It sure looks like it. The thing is, on replay, he certainly launches. He hits him with, the side of his neck, shoulder type thing. So it's not like a But again,
Mhm.
like what are all of the what do they call them? The
Yeah, the
elements.
yes,
Thank you, Steve
the
Hellwagon,
elements.
Bucknuts 24/7, CBS Sports. The elements there, and I mean, again, I'm not going to pretend to know what targeting is because again, you have every Saturday, you will watch a game where you see a targeting, and the rules official in the booth is like, I don't think this is targeting, and then the conference is like, this is targeting.
Yeah.
So like me, I don't know.
What do I know?
What do I know?
Yeah, it is a so that
Local
was
buffoon.
certainly a benefit to Ohio State to not lose him for the first half against Purdue was really the biggest piece of that. But the Ohio State defense on the whole, I know we have some graphics with some defensive stats that we can pop up here, but Arvell Reese 12 tackles, Caden McDonald 8 tackles. I believe we talked on the pregame show about who would be the defensive tackle to have it be the this guy game, and we talked about Caden McDonald, and Caden McDonald with 8 tackles, Arvell Reese with 2.5 tackles for loss and a sack. Kenyatta Jackson 2.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. It feels like you look at these guys, and you look at you had the Caden Curry game.
Mhm.
And it's like, wow, I can't believe Caden Curry's really stepped up, and Kenyatta Jackson. But I really thought we were going to have a big season from Kenyatta Jackson, and it hasn't really happened yet. And then a couple weeks later, it's Caden Curry didn't have a huge game, but Kenyatta Jackson had a couple sacks and 2.5 tackles for loss. And man, oh man, Arvell Reese, holy smokes! Like there were a whole lot of NFL scouts here. We got asked about Arvell Reese's draft prospects pregame on the pregame live show. Didn't hurt them today with all the NFL scouts in attendance.
I do love speaking about the NFL draft with literal NFL scouts sitting next to us while we're
and I'm explaining,
trying to sound like educated people.
Well, and I'm explaining these people are morons who can't figure out how to draft quarterbacks. This is one of these truth is the ultimate defense to libel situations. So can't get mad.
Yeah. Prove me wrong, kids. Prove me wrong. Caden McDonald. If I tell you, Tom, that Caleb Downs now has 5 more solo tackles this season than Caden McDonald, former Pee Wee League teammates. Like this is a guy who had 70 more solo tackles than anybody else on the Alabama team as a freshman, or it was a lot more. Now, because of this defense being what it is, just has 5 more solo tackles, I believe. Because Caden McDonald had 4 today, Caleb Downs had 1. They're getting closer. Caden McDonald also the 8 tackles today. He is the first Ohio State nose tackle with 8 tackles in a game since he did it in the season opener, which was the first time since 2012 or 13 when 2012 when Garrett Goebel did it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, rarefied air for that guy.
Well, you look at this Ohio State defense, and it's very easy to look and go, why are they able to do all this stuff that no one has done since 1993 Florida State? They gave up 14 points today, but 7 of that is on the fumble. You turn the ball over inside the red zone. That's not really on the defense.
Can I also be really nitpicky?
Sure.
The legitimate touchdown drive probably should have been stopped when Will Smith was held on the 3rd and long that turned into a completion.
I saw. Well, I have photos of Will Smith almost getting to the quarterback, and I didn't have. He was behind the ref, so I missed whatever happened before. But I saw there was a cacophony of.
Should this have been 45-0? Yes.
Is this the conclusive proof that the Big Ten's massive anti-Penn State conspiracy is over?
I think so. Finally, and all it took was to get rid of James Franklin, Bill O'Brien, and Joe Paterno. Mm-hmm. So. Small price indeed.
But if you look at the Ohio State defense, they had I don't know if this was on the TV broadcast, but during one of the commercial breaks, they had at the point at which Ohio State had very clearly put the game away for good. I think it might have been after the final touchdown. They had a fan cam thing where they showed Jim Knowles up in the booth and everyone goes, boo. And then they show Matt Patricia on the sideline and everyone goes, yay. And then they show Jim Knowles up in the booth and everyone goes, boo. And then they show Matt Patricia on the sideline again. And everyone goes, yay. And I do think Matt Patricia deserves a ton of credit for how good this Ohio State defense is. And I went back and looked at one of the, I think it might have been the show that we did when we were talking about Matt Patricia's hiring.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think you can go back and watch that, and you're going to see a lot of people ready to throw themselves off the roof at how Ohio State has hired this cretin who, you know, was a disaster with the Detroit Lions. And I think you and I probably come off pretty well because we're kind of saying like, yeah, man, I don't know. We'll see. I think Ryan Day has probably earned the benefit of the doubt right now. One thing that I definitely was incorrect about is I said, I will guarantee you this year's Ohio State defense is not as good as last year's Ohio State defense, which I mean, it's true. It's better. So therefore I was sort of correct. It wasn't as good. It was better.
Right. You're right.
Which is what I meant. I probably didn't express myself clearly.
That's a very slim margin
it's not
that you're
exactly,
trying to hit.
It's not going to be exactly the same. But you look at how is this defense better than the one that was the best defense in the country last year and won the national championship? Matt Patricia deserves a ton of the credit. But man, oh man, to have a Caleb Downs, to have the guys we don't talk about because no one throws the ball at them. Davis Igbinosun, Jermaine Matthews. I didn't even notice those guys during the game today.
No.
But also the Caden McDonalds, the Kenyatta Jacksons, the Arvell Reese, the Sonny Studs. It's like, okay, we've talked about all the position groups. That's everyone on defense. And it's like all of these guys are having incredible seasons.
Tywan Malone was making plays again. Edric Houston had a sack and a forced fumble. You mentioned not saying the corners. Davis and Igbinosun did go out in the fourth quarter with like a hand or a wrist, and he never came back. But he never went to the tent either, from what I saw there. He was just talking with the trainer.
Okay.
But again, you wouldn't necessarily need to go back in at that point.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing that you did not mention with the Patricia Knowles thing is that eventually the players caught on to it, and were like, whenever they would show Patricia, they'd be like pointing at him, and Patricia's like trying I don't want to be involved in this. So that it was interesting there. I know some people did not care for it in terms of do you need to do this?
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit petty for, and this is not like Ryan Day personally approved this. This is stadium ops. Like,
no, this is clearly Ryan Day's brother.
Right. Yeah, this is. Private eyes are watching you, and that's how they see you up in the booth. Yes. No, this is not like Ryan Day personally approved this. It was a little petty, and it was, when they did the Google Me thing for Kurt Signetti after the game last year, that was a little petty, but that's someone who kind of called out Ohio State and doesn't have the track record of did some great things at Ohio State. So it was like I get it. And I understood the, playing Zombie Nation when at the exact point where this game is the most over any football game has been, that's when you bring out, I always want teams when they beat LSU to play neck, because that is the best way to pick the exact right moment and then drag their lifeless corpse. Yes, jump around. They played Rocky Top last year in Columbus when they beat Tennessee. And, I get it. It's fun. It's cool. I like it. It's amusing. The Knowles thing, Knowles, I will tell you, Knowles on the field before the game, lots of hugs, lots of smiles, long conversation with Matt Guerreri, who, was obviously spent a lot of time with him at Duke and then at Oklahoma State, and, knew him well. So, this is not someone who's universally reviled by any means, but I know you're wearing a different color clothes. So now you're the heel.
I did see a comment there. The Brutus entrance was interesting. Yes. What was that? I didn't see
Brutus came down on a zip line from the top of the stadium. Now, my experience with the Brutus entrance was I was standing there watching the Gronk and Jeff Swoboda thing right as the Brutus entrance happens, and I turn my head and I'm watching Brutus come into the zip line, and I turn back, and I assume that Gronk has recreated the photo, but I have missed it during the 3 seconds that I've looked that way. So it was I've been standing here for 20 minutes waiting for this incredible moment, and I presumably missed it. I don't know if they actually recreate. I haven't actually seen anyone in the photo that they actually recreated it. So
on TV they did not.
Okay, so then they didn't. Okay, so I didn't miss anything. So,
I don't know if they did it afterwards.
Yeah, no, no, they didn't. But yes, that was a phenomenal moment as well. That was, Do you want to explain the bit? I assume people who are watching this are probably plugged in enough to know.
Well,
what
maybe. I
meme
mean,
is.
so the famous photo, if you just look up Rob Gronkowski, Ohio State, photo, it's gonna
Or Rob Gronkowski
Gronk, Ohio State.
Gronk hung over probably
Right.
returns a lot of different photos, but
Right, but he
yeah.
is a recruiting visit in 2006, and next to him is Jeff Svoboda, who was on the beat at BSB, Buckeye Sports Bulletin at the time. Photo taken by Adam Jardy of the Columbus Dispatch, who was the basketball beat writer. A young Jeff Svoboda, a very hungover Rob Gronkowski, and Jeff every year probably doesn't go 3 months without that photo popping back up and somebody hitting him on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. And so like almost 20 years now, they finally, because they ask Gronk about it all the time as well. Like people will ask him about that trip to Ohio State, like what happened. And he's talked about how his buddies from Pennsylvania came over on that trip with them, and they went out, and how, they were always just looking for fights, and they got, a little too rowdy. And so he was definitely hungover for his trip for his visit that day. And you could tell. And so then, they got everybody back together, sober as, you would expect adults to be in this day and age. And but the best thing is, so, it's like the names on the Fox broadcast, Rob Gronkowski. It just says, what did it say for Jeff? Guy with Gronk. So talking to with Svoboda in the press box afterwards, like, I'm a pretty accomplished guy. Should be more than just guy with Gronk.
He is the Columbus Blue Jackets team reporter right now. Like, you can follow his professional account.
Yes.
He has a personal Twitter account. His professional account is @Jackets Insider. So he is, he is someone who has
I'm a pretty accomplished guy. Guy with Gronk.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was,
and there was no chance that Gronk was going to pronounce his last name either. It was just Jeff. Good to see you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That was a funny. That was very, very funny. Funny reunion there.
How about Brandon Innes getting more involved, continuing to get more involved, using the seam down the field, and even another one they went deep to him that was it was pass interference. The first pass interference accepted against the opponent this year on a throw for Ohio State wide receiver, but 4 for 41, and last week tied the season high with 3 catches. Now he's got his season high with 4. The offense continues to evolve and embrace more. Now Max Clare only had 1 catch. I think those 2 guys are gonna, just go back and forth in terms of who has 4, who has 1, who has 5, who has 2, that sort of thing. But the more that Brandon Innes becomes a threat, the more you're going to see the outside stuff continue to open up.
Yeah, for sure. This is just if you can do one more thing, that just makes you harder to defend. And you're going to take away Carnell Tate. Okay, well, all right, go back to Jeremiah Smith. If you're going to take away Jeremiah Smith, go back to Carnell Tate. Take away both those guys. All right, Brandon Innes is in the middle of the field. And, I thought this was a game where Jim Knowles would potentially try and take away both guys, and we have a bunch of Max Clare seam shots, and he had 1 catch for 6 yards, but it turned out to be Brandon Innes in a lot of cases. So,
yeah, and the RPO is again working when they needed to. Just the passing game at this point it's as efficient and as good as we've ever seen. Now, it's not as prolific as 2018 because they don't need it to be.
Right.
It's not as prolific as 2021 because they don't need it to be. They're not in these shootouts. And 2018, they couldn't run the ball either, but it was just like throwing the ball 40, 50 times while also having 82 snaps a game instead of 62 this year. So not only were there more snaps, they're throwing the ball more, and you're throwing for 4,800 yards, I think. This, you're not going to see you'll see Julian Sayin probably get to 4,000 because Will Howard did. But the way they do it, it's much more surgical. Like, defenses may not even feel the pain until like the next morning. Like, why my Achilles sore? It's like, because you got them sliced last night. You just didn't know it.
Yeah. Let's see. Do we have other? Sorry, I'm trying. I have. Then let's tell you what. Let's hit some.
Yeah, let's stop making the people wait.
Let's hit some questions.
Not this one though.
Michael says that second half was a chef's kiss, total lockdown. That was, the drive chart there for the second half was Penn State 7 for 16,
Mhm.
7 plays, 16 yards, punt. 6 plays, 2 yards, punt. 3 plays, negative 11 yards, punt. 12 plays, 68 yards, interception. Womp. And I cannot emphasize this strongly enough. Womp.
Yeah, that was very much a tease.
And then the second half for Ohio State, 5 plays, 75 yards, touchdown, 7 plays, 84 yards, touchdown, 4 plays, 17 yards, punt. What's wrong with, who needs to be fired? 2 plays, 62 yards, touchdown. And then they kind of ran out the clock at the end of the game.
Yeah, it's exactly how they drew it up. They drew up the first half in a very similar way. It's just sometimes weird things happen. And that's Ryan Day talked about it, where you work for all of this and one turnover can cost all of it. And so I think there's a very good thing to happen in this game so that they could learn the lesson in the win, as they say, is always much better than learning a lesson in a loss.
Well, and this was also a very low possession game again, where you go through the results of Ohio State's drives, and they played almost a perfect game outside of the fumble and that one punt in the second half. Touchdown, field goal, touchdown, the fumble, and then one kneel down before the half. Touchdown, touchdown, punt, touchdown, and then running out the clock at the end of the game. So you had 5 touchdowns and 1 field goal and a punt and 1 fumble and 1 punt. I mean, you're going to score 38 points in 7 drives, and one of them is a 1-play fumble. I mean, that's pretty good. And this is not a bad Penn State team. This really is not a bad Penn State team. This is a completely lost Penn State team, but this is a Penn State team that has talent. And their defensive coordinator is not a dummy. They have a very, very sharp defensive coordinator. They have a talented defense. But man, oh man, I mean, Ohio State this was Ohio State made this look pretty effortless today.
Yeah. They were stopping themselves more than anything else. McCalhoun, JR, MCJ, who will be the first defender taken on Ohio State? Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, or Sonny Styles? And here's the answer. Is Arvell Reese, because of the freakish nature and the possibilities. With Caleb Downs, it's like, we know what we're going to get. We're going to get a 12-year vet who's going to be solid and does everything we need, and is not necessarily the flashy center fielder. At least that's not what Ohio State uses him for. The flash, I think, is always the thing that ends up luring. I mean, it's like fishing, the flashy lures, that sort of thing. And Arvell Reese can do the pass rush. He can do whatever you need. And those pass rushes are always going to be more sought after than safeties, even though Caleb Downs, as a true freshman, I was told he'd be a top 10 pick right now after his freshman year. Nothing has changed there. Somebody's going to be very happy to get him, and he may not last, beyond the 10th pick. But I just think with Arvell Reese right now, but then the question is, he's playing so well at linebacker. Does that take away his value as an edge rusher?
I don't know, because I think he's shown he can do both of those things. So I think it's just kind of a which team picks him, what kind of defense do they run? Because he can kind of do what do you want him to be? You want to be an edge rusher? Fine. You want him to be a linebacker, off-ball linebacker? Fine. Like, whatever you want, he'll do it, and he'll be successful. And I think you've seen this year, this is Matt Patricia has a reputation of running a complicated defense. Arvell Reese is the guy with the green dot on the back of his helmet, not Caleb Downs. Now that's really usually it's a linebacker. Not that Caleb Downs obviously couldn't be that guy.
Well, it's Sonny.
Oh, is it Sonny?
Generally,
it's Sonny,
but
okay,
it's not. It's like I said, it's not Caleb.
It's not Caleb, but yeah. They've got smart guys. Arvell is so freakish and athletic. It's a really, really impressive group, and you're probably looking at a combination of positional value and position of need for the teams in terms of who's going. Both of those guys going in the top 10, 12, whatever, wouldn't surprise me at all.
And from what I was told, talking with somebody today, Carnell Tate, the NFL likes him more right now in terms of his route running and after catch abilities than Jeremiah Smith. Now, Jeremiah Smith as a junior next year is
sure.
But right now, what they see a more polished guy, and so wide receiver 1. Like I told you earlier in the week, I saw like him. He's popping up now as the top 5, top 10 pick as well, and nothing we saw today would make me say no to that. And then, Sonny Styles will be somewhere in the first round. Caden McDonald, don't be surprised if he shows up somewhere in that first round as well. And then there's just no way they'll be able to replace everybody next year. So it's just enjoy it now.
Tony, listen, I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. There's no way this Ohio State defense is as good next year as it is this year. So you better enjoy it now.
Enjoy it now. I like this one from Hardy Jens. Can't wait to watch ESPN break down Julian's 3 incompletions. I'll tell you what. You won't need to wait for ESPN if they don't do it. I will eventually do it and put it out on Twitter.
You put out a bunch of his, every time Julian Sayin has thrown an incomplete pass inside his own 20, and it's like, depending, this is either analytical or some real hating. And I'm still, I'm pretty sure I know which one it is.
Hating,
yeah,
for sure.
Agreed.
But I do think this would be a good not film exercise, but a good example of how well he's playing by putting those 3 incompletions out there for everybody to see and understand. Like, these are not wild passes that everybody else has.
Yep. Chip says Arvell for Heisman. Listen, there's, if you can get him to return some punts and play wide receiver, sure, anything is possible.
I say they love playing their tight ends, 14 personnel. We've seen it. We saw the touchdown pass to Bennett Christian. There's nothing wrong with putting in Arvell Reese as one of your 4 tight ends and letting him run a little play action into the flats.
You could absolutely do that against Rutgers, although heaven help you if he sprains an ankle the week before the Michigan game. And
I think it'd be worth it. I think to increase awareness of this linebacker who, for some reason, decides I wanted to catch a touchdown pass.
Do the old Rashad Berry offense and defense. Yeah, it's possible.
He kicked around in the NFL for a very long time.
He did. User 42 says it's been too long since a Buckeye has won the Heisman. 2006, Troy Smith. That's it has been for as often as they've had finalists.
Yeah.
You go back and Justin Fields, Chase Young, Dwayne Haskins, CJ Stroud, Marvin Harrison. I mean, they've had, that's 5. I might be forgetting someone. That's 5 finalists in the last 7 years. That, you could.
Who? No.
You could, odds are you're going to win one of these at some point. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be Arvell Reese, but I think there's someone on this team that easily could do that. This year.
And we talked about it at one of the shows earlier this week. Right now, Julian Sayin, if everything goes as things are favored to, he will win the Heisman. You just beat Michigan, play well. You beat Indiana, play well. He and Fernando Mendoza are going to be your top 2 picks. The Diego Pavia thing is over now with that loss to Texas. So, that's not even. Although I guess they did come back. But again, let's stop talking about that. But Julian Sayin versus Fernando Mendoza. But you have to beat Michigan.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, then it's like, well, now you can still, I guess, vie for it. But if you just want to run away with it, that's one way to do it. And whoever comes out of that Big Ten championship game, if it's a 12-0 against a 12-0, go ahead and give it to them at that point.
Yep, for sure. Next one, Lisa says, I can't wait until Tuesday night for the CFP rankings to come out and the arguing begins.
And we will be going live. We are beginning our live Tuesday night shows, which we'll show up a little bit beforehand and react to the rankings live. And then I'll jump on the teleconference and tell you all of the lies that the committee is telling people to get them to believe. And then, we'll be there with you. I guess we'll see, but I kind of expect Indiana to be number 1 based on the win over Oregon and the domination over everybody else for the most part. And Ohio State has been dominating as well, but they don't have that Oregon win like Indiana does.
Although Texas beating Vanderbilt,
I'm saying,
you wonder if that now, Texas was 20th in the regular polls. They just get a win over number 9 in the regular polls. You move to 15. You move to
where's Oregon in relation to Texas and
north and west?
Left.
Okay. Left. Yes. Left. So let's get to the next one. Ethan says running back depth is very concerning. Is the depth concerning? What about the running back room is
they're
concerning?
Deep. They're just not very productive. So they've got a lot of those guys, that aren't necessarily doing what you would like, getting the 5.5 yards, 4.5, 5.5 yards a carry. But you've got 4 guys that play. That's a rarity at Ohio State when you can go 4 deep. Now, would they be going 4 deep if James Peoples and C.J. Donaldson were averaging 7 yards a carry?
If they had 2 guys who were running like the guys last year were,
Right,
they would be too deep.
It's I don't think it's the depth; it's the top level of talent that they don't have yet, and maybe they will get there. I just wonder at what point. I don't want to say will it matter? Does it matter? Like if they're just doing not this, because this is more than I think they'll do against playoff teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't expect them to rush for 164 generally in kind of any playoff game. But do they need to? 3 yards a carry and 9 yards a pass attempt. I mean,
well, this is a team that can beat you in, this is not a team that has to win one specific kind of game.
Right.
They can win a shootout. They can throw for 400 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns, and they can beat you that way. This is, I think, also a team that can win a rock fight because the defense is so solid and so good in the red zone that if you hold the opponent to 13 points, you don't need to do that much. You can just sort of be efficient and stay on schedule and run enough. And if you complete 87% of your passes, here's the thing: Julian Sayin can come way off of his numbers right now and still be an incredibly effective passer. You can, if you're completing 70%, what did Will Howard complete last year on average? 75%, give or take. Julian Sayin can come. You can adjust for the opponent and say, okay, well, he'll never be that good against good opponents. Okay, lop 10% off of his completion percentage, and he's still, 73%. So that was good enough to win the national championship last year, and the defense sure seems like better this year. I mean, I know you don't want to look past a full month of football, and I know you don't want to look past the Michigan game, but man, oh man, Ohio State, Indiana, if that's the Big Ten championship game, holy Moses. Because Indiana is doing to Maryland exactly what you would expect Indiana to do to Maryland right now. That just feels like such a fascinating matchup potentially in Indianapolis.
Yeah, and again, we will give it all of the time that it deserves if it gets to us. Believe me. But yeah, I think everybody associated with Ohio State and Indiana would love to see that, including the Big Ten.
Yep. The Jam says, I don't know why Penn State went away from what was working in the first half. I don't think they went away from it. I mean, I was over there at the Penn State postgame interviews, and Terry Smith didn't really talk about it, but I was sort of editing together some of the videos that we're putting on this show, and I was sitting there listening to some of the players talk about stuff, and it was a lot of, Ohio State just sort of changed what they were, it wasn't that Penn State changed, it was that Ohio State changed what they're doing. Ethan Grunkemeyer, and I thought this was a little bit telling, and we're going to maybe play a little bit of sound from him later. I don't think this is going to be part of that, but he was asked about what changed at halftime, and he said Ohio State, made really good adjustments at halftime, and someone asked, like, what are they doing? He goes, I got to go back and watch the film. And it's like, if you don't know right now, that's Ohio State really confused you. And this is a guy, a redshirt freshman, who is not probably expecting to be the starter right now, making his second career start on the road in a loud and hostile environment against a guy who has been confusing fifth-year senior quarterbacks. So that's really kind of not a fair fight. But it was, it wasn't that Penn State stopped doing something. It was that Ohio State went, okay, I see what you're doing, and we're going to do this. And Ohio State, as I said earlier, can beat you in a bunch of different ways. Penn State, Andy Kotelnicki's going to run out of cutesy crap at some point, and then they're in trouble.
Well, and so here's how things went in the first half for Penn State rushing the ball. In the first quarter, they were 5 of 34 rushing. Second quarter, 14 of 42. Third quarter, 6 for -13.
Is that good?
It's not good.
Oh.
Fourth quarter, 6 for -18. So 12 carries for a loss of 21 yards in the second half. Why did they go away from the run? Because they were trying to go forward, and the only way to do that was to throw an incompletion.
Well, and some of that I'm sure is sack adjustment.
Yes, correct.
Even looking at the they lost 39 yards on sacks, but even looking at Kaytron Allen, his rushing 26, -2, 3, 1, 6, 2, 7, 0, 2, 1, 9, 3, 0, 0, 4, 1, 2, 0, 2, 9, 0. Like there's a bunch of
Jenny.
nines. There's a bunch of, yeah, really. But there's a bunch of nines and sevens and a 26. And it's like, wow, that's really good. And then boy, there's a lot of ones and twos and threes in there. And one of them was on first and goal from the one, but most of them weren't.
Yeah. And well, here's his second half carries. It's 2-0-2-9-0. And, none of those are on the goal line. So like they shut things down, and they did a really good job in the first half, just outnumbering with the old school toss sweeps, student body left, student body right, doing some of that stuff. And Ohio State have done, like, you can't necessarily live on that because it's not the 1970s anymore.
Right.
But it's a good way to get some jabs in and maybe score.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also liked, we haven't talked about this, Ohio State coming out in so many different looks in the first half, like so many things that we have not seen. It's like, I think I posted it on the board, like never go full Codal Nicky, but like they were moving a lot of things around, and like diamond formation, and they'd, off to the right, and they'd have either, James Peoples motion in, and then one time they didn't, they threw a screen to him. Like they had tight ends in the backfield. Like it was very interesting, and they kept Jim Knowles guessing. And that was one of the things Ryan Day said, like, he's like, I don't want to use the word not be predictable. I guess I don't want the defense to be able to anticipate as quickly and as well. And I think it worked.
Yeah. Well, you had a defensive coordinator who had been in the building for the last 3 years, and really he knows what you're thinking. He knows what you're, he went in every situation. He knows what your first inclination is. So you've got to go, okay, well, we're not going to do that. So we're going to do something else, because you get into the we know that you know that we know that you know situation. So you got to kind of break tendencies, which you're going to do in a game like this anyway. But it was almost, there were points in the first half that I'm like, are they just messing with him? Like, are they just, it was just like, was there a meeting last year where someone was sitting and, Jim Knowles said, that'll never work against this. And it was like, oh, I'll show you. All right. Well, yeah, I don't know that was the case, but it was just, they were doing enough different, like completely out of nowhere stuff that I was kind of wondering, like, is there a subtext here that we're not all completely aware of?
Did you want to get to the last bit of your sound there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So let me remember what the last bit of the sound is. So this is, okay. So this is about the first drive for Penn State. Penn State, Terry Smith has talked all week about the fact they're going to empty the clip, and they're going to do everything they can. And they're going to, they're going to throw everything against the wall, and they're going to see what works. And they, this is a Penn State offense that has struggled. It's a Penn State offense that has not been able to, not been able to consistently score at all this year, let alone with a true freshman starting or a redshirt freshman starting quarterback. And so Penn State gets the ball, first play of the game, boom. Katron Allen runs for 26 yards into Ohio State territory. We got a question on the pregame show. Will Penn State even get into Ohio State territory? It's like, well, that took one play, and now they're in Ohio State territory. And then second play, 6-yard pass. And then a, third play was like, oh, Katron Allen, 2-yard loss. So now it's 3rd and 6. You run the ball on 3rd and 6 with Katron Allen. James Franklin back, question mark. 3-yard gain. Great. It's 4th and 3 at the Ohio State 42.
Yeah.
Empty the clip, Tony.
No.
Is the clip already empty? No, it's time to punt the ball and gain 31 yards of field position. It was like, how many times do you think you're going to have the ball here? They got the ball in that spot or better, had the ball in that position or better twice later in the game. One of them was because they got a fumble. The offense got the ball down that far on the field one more time in the game. You know what your defense is. You know how many points Ohio State's likely to score. How are you punting the ball in that situation?
Well, and he had also said, I'm demanding Andy call some downfield shots. And I think there was one down the middle in the second half that was maybe like a 30-yard pass. And it's like, you're going to demand your coordinator, your coaches be aggressive, but the first opportunity you have to show that, you're all in, it's like, well, you better punt.
Yeah, 4th and 3. Like, it's 4th and 8. I get it. Like, sure, you don't. 4th and 3. Come on, man. Now, here, he was asked about this. And I saw someone in the chat asking about Audrey Snyder, who is phenomenal.
Yep.
She does a Substack now, I think. But she is phenomenal covering Penn State. And she was actually the one who asked him about this. So here was Terry Smith's explanation on why he decided to punt on that first drive.
Yeah, another key point of emphasis was winning field position. We know what their offense is. We felt like let's give them a long field. They had 90 yards to go. Unfortunately for us, they went 90 yards. But hindsight's 20/20. But we wanted to make sure we won the field position battle. And in the first half, we did win the field position battle. We're in the game. In the second half, we didn't win field position, and we did not win the game.
The idea that this was going to be a field position game, I think, betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of the talent level on the Ohio State offense, where you as a defense have been giving up. You gave up big plays to Iowa last week. Mm-hmm. Why do you think you're going to go on the road and you're going to win a 13-10 slugfest against Ohio State with Julian Sayin looking as Julian Sayin has basically the last month, and Ohio State's wide receivers looking as they have the last month, and a quarterback, Penn State's offense was, they can't really go pedal to the metal because then you're going to turn the ball over and then you give Ohio State short fields. Like, I would love to understand what the vision was there, where we're going to punt and play field position was, this is the big picture right move right now.
Well, a famous person once said hope is a strategy. And so I think that was the strategy there.
I don't think that's the exact quote.
I believe those words are all part of that.
It is all part of it. Yes. Yeah. I when your game plan involves the phrase "and then a miracle happened,"
Correct.
Like, that's probably not a winning game plan. But yeah, I mean, the sun did sometimes shine down directly right on certain people. But Mike Ferguson's super chat says, first half Fox, Terry Smith is a genius. Second half Fox, let's talk about who will be the next external head coach hire at Penn State.
What about the genius?
That's
unfortunate.
And he's in an impossible spot. Like, this is, I was saying to you before we started, being in those post-game interviews, it's been a long time since we've been in, the Michigan one last year. Yeah, the Michigan one last year. But I mean, a totally lost season. Mm-hmm. Really, the only times we've been in that kind of a locker room interview setting is end of the season. The Fiesta Bowl in 2019, the Peach Bowl in 2022,
Bowl against Missouri,
Cotton Bowl against Missouri. But those are, that's not lost season. That's end of season. Yeah. This is a Penn State team that's came in with national championship aspirations, is on a 5-game losing streak. When was the last time Ohio State was on a 5-game losing streak ever? I mean, I don't think they did it in 2011. I don't think they did it in 1999. No. Did they do it in 1987? I don't think they even lost. 88, maybe. They lost 6 games that year. Other than that, you're looking at, that would be a fun thing to look up. Not fun for Penn State people, but because I think the answer might legitimately be, either it was 19 and Dickety 6, or it's never happened.
So yeah, I think are we good? Are we good then? We've got everybody.
ChatGPT this, but it's slow.
Okay.
So you can't use ChatGPT for sports.
Well, I know it's always wrong.
Yes. Yeah, I only use it for gambling.
I
don't use it at all.
I did see someone say that Penn State's next head coach is having quite a day today, and that's Bill O'Brien, who is down 12-7 against Notre Dame, a ranked Notre Dame team, highly ranked Notre Dame team, going to Boston College and having a slog.
Yeah,
I don't think we've ever seen this before.
I will be interested and we don't need to talk about this now, but I'm fascinated to see who ends up at Penn State and all of the spinning plates and moving chairs of all of these LSU and whatnot. But so now's not the time. Now is not the place. We do want to thank you all for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up. We would appreciate it. And of course, you can continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.